peeps. We are back at it again. Another week of Weekly Detox. What's up, everybody?
Hey, everybody.
So it's me, of course, D from DCTV on YouTube, and I'm here every week with
Mighty Mosby.
And for the people who are new, where can they find you, Mighty Mosby?
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and at my website, www.ambermosbywrites.com.
Yes, check her out on all of the things. She's always
Follow
got
me,
something
y'all.
interesting going on.
I think I'm clever. I think I'm smart. Follow me.
I agree. I co-sign that belief.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So before we get into it, I want y'all to make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. We always want to hear feedback. We've been getting a little bit of feedback now, so I'm really excited that you all are engaging with the content. So just keep that up. We're always open to talk about different things and just want to know your thoughts on the things we talk about. So thank you all who have already engaged, and we hope to just continue that track and keep bringing more peeps into our world, right?
Yes, the more the merrier. Absolutely.
Yes. All right. So I'm not going to waste any more time. I'm going to get right into it because this week we're going to be giving our raw, unfiltered thoughts on Netflix Fear Street Trilogy.
Yes.
Okay. So me and Mighty Mosby, we have watched every episode in the trilogy. So we are going to give our thoughts, what we liked, what we didn't like, what we expect next, all of our just candid thoughts on the whole trilogy. So to get us started, I want you to just tell me, Mighty Mosby, what was your favorite episode?
Definitely the second episode. The second episode at Camp Nightwing was my favorite one. Absolutely. Camp Nightwing for sure. It just was like all those like slasher film cliches that you love, like edgy teens having sex, doing drugs, rich kids picking on poor kids, and all them textbook cliches were right there in the movie. Like all the things you love about a good slasher film.
Yeah.
And it delivered. It definitely delivered.
So I totally agree. Episode or movie 2 or part 2, whatever you want to call it, part 2 was my favorite. Mm-hmm. How would you rank all 3? So I know you're 1. So what about the other ones?
So definitely the second movie is first.
1976.
Then the first movie, 1994. And then 1666 was last, which is why it only got an hour in its own movie.
You see why we do this together? Because we're here.
We're here.
We are here right on it.
Y'all can't see us, but we're making the eye to eye gesture.
Yes, the eye thingy. Y'all know what it is.
Eye.
Yes. It was definitely the perfect order. So number 2 definitely was tops. Yes. Followed by 94, followed by 1666. And so we're going to break all those down. We'll do it in order, just, to keep everything even organized. We'll go through each, but we'll talk a little bit more why we ranked them the way that we did. And even though, we liked one more than the other, we're going to talk about all of them, our likes and dislikes across all 3. So let's start with 1994, which was episode or part 1.
Part 1.
Okay. So part 1, if you all haven't seen it or wherever you're at, if you haven't seen it, watch all 3 and then come back. Spoilers ahead.
Hashtag spoiler.
Everything beyond this point is going to be hard spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, go watch all 3, then come back and check in with us because we're going to have a good discussion about it.
You have been warned. There are spoilers coming.
Spoiler. I'll say it one more time. Spoiler. Okay? It's enough to not get hate. Okay. So part 1 is 1994. So if people don't know, 1994 starts the Fear Street Trilogy. It takes place, it starts off in a mall where you see there are two teens, a boy and a girl. The boy starts acting odd as the girl's closing down the store that she works in, and then all hell breaks loose. He chopper style.
He got a little knife happy.
To death. And I will say, for this episode, I liked how they started it off like, yeah, we're doing real deal in your face.
Like, anybody
let the bodies hit the floor.
Anybody can get got. Don't fall in love with a character. Like, right out the gate is the message.
I think they set a good tone. Yeah. And I liked it because they kind of did a nod to like Scream, because you know how Scream started with Drew Barrymore and everyone thought she was going to be like one of the main characters in the movie, and then she immediately gets got. Spoiler alert, you never saw Scream. That's ridiculous. But they did the same thing, because this actress that gets got in the very beginning is Maya Hawke, which is she starred in the last season of Stranger Things. She's also Uma Thurman and Ethan Hawke's daughter. So with that name, you know, you would think she would be part of it, but she gets got. Go ahead.
I did not realize that was Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman's daughter. Did not even realize. Should have known. Had not a clue.
Fun movie fact. We give movie facts here sometimes, y'all.
Every now and then we stumble across some good ones.
Yeah. Well, if you did, you know, pick up on who that was, you would have thought, oh, yeah, she's going to be like maybe a final girl, maybe like a major part of the series. Nope. She gets got immediately.
Like, anybody can get it, y'all.
Yeah. And so that first kill sets the tone for 1994, that in this town, what's the town again? There's two towns. Shady Side. Shady Side is kind of like the Genki town. And so they show that Shady Side has this reputation that years upon decades that they've had these horrific murders, these just seemingly random mass murders that have happened across decades. So the whole neighborhood, the whole town has this reputation of just being like a murder town, a low class, like low brow town that like no one really respects. And so this new murder kind of brings back that reputation back into like the conversation of the town.
Yep.
So 1994, I'm not going to like go by like blow by blow, but I will talk about what I like. We'll talk about what we like. So what I liked, like I said, they set the tone, I think, for the whole series with that first kill, like that people are going to get got. They're going to get got in gruesome ways. It's going to be unexpected. So I like that they set that. It kind of gets you like, okay, this is not going to be some like cookie cutter PG-13, like nonsense kitty, like not 100% kitty stuff. I really liked that. Another part that I liked the actors. I think that they knew what kind of movie that they were in, right?
Definitely.
And so like they knew they were in like slasher film, campy,
cheesy
kind of, yeah. Because I would say
too seriously.
Yeah, because 1994, although it was pretty gory, I would say second gory to part 2. It was the second goriest film. But however, it wasn't a scary, like horror scary movie. It was like slasher, funny, kind of like Scream-esque. It gave me that kind of campy horror vibe.
Exactly. Definitely like the first Scream movie. Lots of like stumbling and tripping over things you shouldn't trip over, and like corny little punchlines set up and like zingers and one-liners that people are able to get off, where they're basically like winking in the camera, like, we get it. Like, okay, we know that you're not trying to get above yourself and act like with some knockout film. Yeah.
And so I thought all the characters, they were very self-aware, which I think they needed in this film, in the part 1 film. They needed to have that, like, we know like we're tropey, like stereotype characters. We're gonna lean into the whole slasher, like kind of comedy, kind of horror. lean towards it all. So I think they all did a good job of playing those parts. Another thing that I liked is that they kind of, I would say, a little bit played against type, like, because usually in these kind of slasher films, you know, you're going to get the jock, you're going to get the cheerleader, you're going to get all of that. But the main characters kind of played against type. Like, you had the main girl who shows up across the films. She's in the band. She's not very popular. And she is in love, or like has feelings for another girl who used to go to her school. So it wasn't like the nerdy boy. I like that it was a nerdy girl instead. I like that her friend, she's friends with like the popular cheerleader of Shady Side. And that popular cheerleader isn't just like, you know, the bitchy character. Like, she's selling drugs. Like, she's friends with like random people. She's pretty chill. She's nice to like her nerdy brother.
Yeah.
And then you got, you know, the stock like comedy character, which was like the guy friend. But I like that, like, he wasn't like dating either one of them. He was really just like their friend. So I felt like they kind of went against.
Either one of them wasn't like pining after them with those
Yeah.
and all that. Like, who's got time for that subtext? We don't need that. We got enough going on.
Yeah. And maybe they have hooked up at some point or not. Like, we never know, but like, it wasn't the point of like he had to be with one of the main girls in the movie. Like, that wasn't even relevant to it at all.
Right. There wasn't like a lot of corny relationship stuff either way, except for the main character and the chick that she's in love with. And that's, you know, plays out in the other movies. So there's like a point to that. So,
Yeah.
you know, thank goodness we said spoilers when we did. There's a
Yeah.
point to their relationship. Like, you see it repeated in the movies. So then it's like, okay, it's not the story. Thank goodness
Yeah.
the story is not about them being like lesbians who everyone's like, oh my gosh, lesbians, you know.
Yeah, it wasn't a lesbian story. They just happened to be
lesbians.
Yeah.
Which tied into my next point, that the main character is not a white person, and every other word out of her mouth isn't about her struggle of not being white. It's like, thank you. People of color, Black women, we do not just sit around talking about how hard it is to not be white. Like, I'm so glad they didn't make part of her personality that she has to struggle with the fact that she's not, you know, that she's part Black.
Yeah, she appears to, I don't know, but she appears to be biracial, but like, they never even showed the parents. Like,
and that was my next point. Where's everybody's parents at?
Yeah, once we get into like our other thoughts, we'll talk a little bit about that stuff. But yeah, like, they didn't make it a focus that like she was seemingly biracial. Even her friend, I think she was like either Asian or like Latinx or something like that, but like none of that was really,
don't really know for sure. So, you know, they did kind of let them float like that, I guess, so that other, you know, multiple people could identify it. But the main character's brother kind of clears up real fast. What's going on there?
Yeah, but like, and I agree with you. I think it's good like that they didn't make it about she's a lesbian or she's biracial. Like, they were just, it was organic. And that's like how people can get away from that, oh, everything has to be woke argument. No, you could just have diverse people in a movie, and you don't have to focus on it.
You don't have to put the spotlight on it. Just let it be like, oh, she's biracial, she's also a lesbian. Boop. Has nothing to do with the movie.
It's not relevant to the story.
Her character is. Thank you.
Yeah. And then a final thing that I did like about 1994 is like, they didn't shy away from the gore. Like, if I'm watching a slasher flick, I want to see body parts. I want to see chunks. I want to see real blood coming out of the body, not some blood on the floor, but you don't see like a wound on the person's body.
Oh my gosh, but like Quentin Tarantino levels, because you know how he gets with his blood.
Yeah, like when I'm watching a slasher, it needs to live up to the name, and I think they did. Like, the kills were creative, they were interesting. You saw them bleeding. Yeah, I mean, they might not have been, you know, knocked down for the count with like these very fatal looking wounds that they had, but at least you saw that they had the wound. So I like that. Okay. So what were your dislikes or any other likes before we get to the dislikes of 1994?
I think you touched on everything that I liked. A lot of good violence, a lot of like broken stereotypes of the type of like who should be the main character and who's the sidekick, and because it was all kind of jumbled in and blurred together, and it really
Yeah.
was like a Scooby-Doo-esque adventure of like we got to figure out what the heck is going on. None of the adults seem to have their heads on straight, so us kids got to make it work, and they really do, and they're like chemistry as a little ragtag crew comes together well. And I think they tied in what we liked about reading the Fear Streets right there in the first movie. So that's what kept me interested. So
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so switching over to why it's not number one for me. I think the overall story was kind of weak, like in regards to tying it all to like the fear story. I feel like it went from like that she's dealing with this girl, and then like all of a sudden they just so happen to all crash at the site that they need to crash to be able to touch the right things at the right time and start the chain reaction. I feel like that was like the way that they set that up, I felt was very weak.
Yeah.
And I feel like throughout it, like they didn't explain enough, like when they would bring in, the different serial killers of each decade to be like the killers. Like they didn't explain who was there, why they were there. Like as it goes on, they explain like there's different type of killers from each decade, but like why did like the girl and the boy from the mall, why did they show back up? Why didn't any of the other ones show back up? Like, because as you see, as the series goes on, there's like a lot of different ones, but like they just chose a couple of random ones to pop up just to attack the kids in 94. I didn't understand it. I don't feel like they explained it well. What do you think?
I don't really know. I'm trying to think of like, cause I'm over here being extra nerdy about it. Like, I was literally trying to see like which books they were pulling from to put the
I can't even
like I even took it there.
Mental reference is not
like
even.
I remember that Corey story. I remember that story at the mall. I remember that story at the camping trip. Like, are they touching on any of that stuff? Like, I was ready to pick out tiny detail. Like, okay, that's accurate, but I couldn't tell which stories they were pulling from, and that was actually disappointing for me that I couldn't really tell like what part of the story. I could tell which parts weren't in the stories, like that wasn't in there, that wasn't in there. But as far as like 1994 is concerned, I just felt like that main character was making a lot of dumb choices and putting a lot of people in risk. So I was kind of getting very frustrated.
Her name is Dina, and I felt like Dina was getting on my nerves. She was doing that trope in horror movies that I don't like, which is everyone around me gets to die because I choose to save this one person.
I care about this one person. Like, this person has an emotional impact on me. All the rest of y'all need to start feeling the same way about her that I do and make her your priority. I was like, no.
Even over your own life.
Right? Like, spoiler, when the friend was like, the monsters aren't after us. The monsters are after this person.
Yeah.
Give them this person. I was like, thank you. Somebody using some sense. Everybody on Earth gotta die tonight? I don't think so.
No. Would I've been the only one like, you better lock yourself in a safe and hope for the best, like
in a vault where they can't get in.
These are regenerating like ghost killers. Like
they're ghouls from the underworld. We don't have regular weapons. Regular weapons aren't going to work on these guys. They showed that immediately. Like, regular weapons don't work on them once they're already dead. Like, you could kill their human version, but once they've died and crossed over into the cursed land that they end up in, they just regenerate over and over. They were never going to stop. So it's like, you are ready to risk everybody else's life, including
like even your brother, Dina.
Like, hello?
She was even sacrificing her brother. Like, she wasn't by him when they were in the convenience store getting ganked. She didn't know where he was.
She was too busy trying to get felt up. I was like, y'all are really, really pushing it. That's not realistic. Like she walked away from her brother.
That let's take a break between being murdered to like hook up with each other. That was also ridiculous.
Oh my gosh, everybody like this could be our last night on earth. Better have sex. What?
No, I could see like if you had 12 hours, but like they literally were a second away from being axed.
At any moment they could have gotten killed, but they found time to fit in a little hanky panky. I was like, it wouldn't be a teen slasher film without unnecessary sex.
Yeah,
it wouldn't be.
Seriously. So Dina, she made a lot of dumb moves. Also, in this, I don't know why, but in this episode, like her facial expressions were getting on my nerves. It was like she was trying to play like the angsty girl, but it was just so like
really hard to be edgy. She was working really hard.
Yeah, she just had this, I don't know, this is a nitpick, but she just had an expression the whole time. And I was just like,
oh no, that is my gripe with her for 1666. Don't even get me.
Okay, we'll get there.
Don't even, man. Like,
but yeah, there's another issue I have with this one that I will bring up when we talk about 1666. End that I feel like wasn't properly connected between this one and that last one, but I'll talk about that more when we get to that one.
I already know what you mean.
Yeah, but I also was bad that like her cheerleader friend got. I thought she was gonna make it.
Oh, that one made me the most upset. Like she was the most logical one.
She was the one, and then I should have known because like the logical one always gets got, and the dumb ones always
end up making some kind of weird noble sacrifice that defies all the logic that you just showed this character to have.
Yeah,
like they built her up to be the smart, witty one,
resourceful,
get shit done, and then they offed her like that. I was like, no. So that was,
it was a good kill. Like her head got sliced up through like a bread grinder, bread maker, or maybe a meat grinder. I don't know what it was, but she was 100% dead. And so
she didn't deserve that death. Shout out to you, girl.
Yeah, R.I.P. I wish she would have lived. I think she deserved to, but
absolutely deserved to live.
It is what it is. But along with that, I feel like after everything got somewhat resolved, they did not act like their friends just got murdered in front of them.
Nobody was crying. Nobody was sad. It was just Samantha this, Samantha that.
This is like an extreme form of compartmentalization.
Like like her head is through the meat slicer.
Your friends got Swiss cheese and you're just like laughing and eating.
And then they got blamed for all the killings. Like everybody that died that night, your two friends are going to go down in history as the ones that did it when they were innocent. And you're just over here like, well, whatever it takes to save Samantha.
Yeah. And I was like, what was it like? I don't know the time. Was it like a week later? I still would have been pretty traumatized.
I'm saying you guys healed pretty quick.
Yeah. So that was stupid to me. Like, I was like, I feel like that was just lazy writing. They should have been a little more traumatized. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of that, when you find out the girl is still possessed by the demonic presence and she stabs Dina, they quickly show that like that stab, I guess that was like a fake knife because Dina did not act stabbed at all.
She held onto her stomach when her brother showed up, but was still somehow able to fight a superpowered zombie chick and tie her up.
Took off to the lady's house
and then just drove.
I didn't just get stabbed in the stomach.
She wasn't losing blood. She wasn't, she wasn't woozy. She was like, "What's stabbed? I don't know what that means." Okay, let's go. Okay then. All right.
Yeah, no, that was like a 5-inch knife that just went into my gut, but I heal fast.
Maybe that's like a secret angsty lesbian superpower we don't know about.
There we go.
The ability to get stabbed.
We missed that part.
Not be phased.
They explained that we missed it. That was our bad.
It must be one of the cool things that they can do.
Yeah. You live through gut knife wound.
All the way to the hilt. The blade was in her all the way to the hilt. And it went in smooth enough that she was still talking on the phone when she got stabbed and had to look down to realize it had even really happened.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was like, well, that's just
Oh,
movie nonsense that I guess I just have to move on because they're
that's
not
just
going to
some of
talk
that
about it
movie
again.
magic. Yeah, that's some of that movie magic that you just have to say only in the movies and then keep going.
Yeah. And then they end 1994 with her popping up at the girl's house who's been a recluse and like, I know you've been doing this to protect yourself, but now you're gonna have to help me regardless.
Right. Like we know you've been trying to just make it all your life, but we're here to destroy all of that.
Yeah.
And that's a fantastic segue into the good movie.
Yeah. So as we're leaving 1994, like we said, some good, some bad. If you want a dumb tropey horror slasher flick, it's all right, but it's nothing memorable. It's nothing to write home about. It just leads you into the next one, which is, like you said, the better one.
Better movie. Let's get into it.
So 1976, Mighty Mosby. Why was 1976 the best one? Let's just
Camp
start there.
Nightwing. So I'm gonna go back to the initial reasons I gave. Just like a perfectly troped slasher flick. Teens being promiscuous, teens using drugs, the edgy girl. There's always an edgy girl who doesn't quite fit in. The prissy, snobby one who's like got the perfect hair and the pearls. I feel like she was actually wearing pearls from the rich neighborhood, Sunnyvale. That rivalry. Somebody just trying to make it, the older sister just trying to get out of the small town and make a name for herself. Like it just had all the tropes of like the movies that you would compare to like Halloween or why do I not know Jason? Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
Perfect. It's like Friday the 13th vibes. That's exactly what it was. And then
It definitely was a nod to Jason Friday the 13th for sure.
absolutely. Like there's a whole lake in the middle, and you're like, what's gonna happen in this lake half the time? And then they don't even use the lake. It's so crazy.
Yeah, right. That was
the lake is just there.
But Mosby, I like that you described like that the characters actually had, personality, they had depth, they had their own separate motivations. You actually understood each one's motivations. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
They were clearly defined. You knew exactly what part of the plot they were there to push or pull from. And the story made sense. It made sense that they, spoiler, went underground.
Yeah.
Found a witch's
Den.
lair, stumbled onto some magic they weren't prepared for, triggered the curse. Although, to be fair, I'm pretty sure the curse was triggered before they went underground.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
We'll get into it. The curse and how the curse works and the way it was triggered, all revealed in 1666 in a way that was great. But to stay on Camp Nightwing, just like kids stumbling across magic, opening up darkness that they didn't expect, and then boom, bam, somebody is possessed and everybody's getting axes to the face. Let's talk about Tommy Slater, shall we?
Yeah. So for 1976, Tommy Slater is the one that gets possessed by the demon force and just goes full roughshod on the camp. Oof. Kids and teens alike.
Anybody can get it.
They all got it.
I didn't brutal ways.
I didn't like that they showed all like clearly adults playing teenagers. They showed all their murders, but when it looked to like tweens, they did not show the murders.
They didn't have the guts. They were like, Netflix was like, wait a minute, y'all.
We can do these teenagers.
Yeah. We're gonna let you show boobs, we're gonna let you cuss, we'll let you chop up adults. But anybody that looks 12 or younger, they gotta get they gotta get killed off screen.
Yeah.
We're gonna make their off-screen deaths awful,
but they're not that bold.
Like we're gonna make those off-screen deaths miserable and just leave, like we're gonna leave body parts behind because you know they died terrible. We're just not gonna show you.
Yeah. Like, okay. Like, look, Netflix was like, look, we got enough grief with cuties. We are not playing these games with y'all again.
And the way they killed the little chubby comedian kid, like the one who was guarding over we missed the part about introducing the color war, which really was just like a socioeconomic status war playing out in campsite. in the most
Yeah.
awful way by putting Shadyside versus Sunnyvale in a red versus blue color war. And the
And
entire
like,
Sunnyvale people are just like, you poor Shadysiders are gonna lose again. Capitalism is
also,
the way.
where are the adults that are monitoring this camp?
All the camp counselors are like 17 and younger.
Yeah.
There's not a single adult on site except for the bus driver who you see driving away
And the
12
nurse
kids
tries to
and
kill
no one
Tommy.
else. Well, how come the bus driver wasn't like, where are the rest of the kids? The bus driver was like, just 8 of y'all? Okay, goodbye. And just drove
Yeah.
off.
Like,
what?
there was
You
really
dropped
poor
off a bus
supervision
right?
of this
Like,
camp.
you dropped off a bus full of kids the same day because that was the first day of camp. So that
Yeah.
bus driver had literally come with a bus full of kids and then dipped out with 8 children and was like, "This is normal," and just kept going.
Yeah.
So funny.
But yeah, so they had real good kills, but like I did like the character development of this one. I liked the whole sister dynamic
it was good.
of these two sisters. One is like very much picked on, the other one is just trying to like be this perfect person so she can get out of that, you know, sleepy town and like live up to the potential she wants. And so like they have this going back and forth that they haven't really had a good relationship. The younger sister doesn't feel like the older sister has really been there for her. With her the dad, I don't remember what happened to the dad, but the mom, I guess, is struggling.
The dad left. They just said the dad split and that the mom's like an alcoholic now.
Yeah, the mom's alcoholic, but like the sister kind of just, she went on her own like perfect path and kind of left the little sister to fend for herself. So they're not really close, but they're both at this camp when this whole thing starts happening. And Tommy is the older sister's boyfriend, so she has to even reckon with that. Like she has to go full like what's her name? Ripley on her boyfriend.
On her own boyfriend. Like,
yeah.
dang.
Plus try to like save her sister. So I really liked that component of like she had to let go of that I'm trying to be perfect persona and just be like, I gotta take charge. I gotta get things handled because like my sister is in trouble and everybody else is in trouble. So forget all the nice.
They really added in depth with that.
Yeah.
That storyline of like that older sister who was just like, if I'm just perfect, I can get out of Shadyside where everyone's looking down on us and this place is cursed with darkness. If I'm just bubbly and bright and act like I walk in the light at all times, I'll be able to get out. Yeah.
And then she ended up like leaving her old friend who she reconnects with during this because if she wanted to take on this persona, you know, like the friend with the short hair, the short blonde hair.
Right.
She like left her when she started taking on this like perfect persona, and then they get to reconnect during this tragedy. So I thought that was cool too.
Yeah. It definitely gave more. Again, it's all about like fleshing out the characters without that becoming the overkill of the story. They were able to have that as a running theme behind everything else that's going on so that it didn't overpower what we really came there for, which was to figure out what the heck is going on and why this place is cursed the way it is. So you still get the information about the curse, you get a good slasher film, you get depth to the characters, you get investment because you're kind of invested into what happens with them. But yet again, invest in no one because anybody can get got.
Anybody got, and they do. But like, yeah, I think that they gave a lot of information. I feel like I got the most understanding of like the whole Fear Street thing from the second one, but it wasn't like an exposition dump. I think the pacing was really good where they would do the slasher stuff. Then they would have some like moments where they're stuck in the cave and they got to talk for a little bit, or the younger sisters out with like the good son. And they're talking for a little bit. So I feel like they did a good job of like going back and forth between those two so that you didn't feel like, oh, this is just a 20 minutes of exposition and like checking out. Like in 1994, I feel like they did a big exposition dump. And I was just like looking at my phone. I got up, I walked away. But this one, I feel like
I fell asleep on it a couple times. The first one. Yeah, 1994, I fell asleep on it a couple times. I was just like, this is kind of boring. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think this one did a good job of that. And the ending was my favorite part when the sisters were surrounded by the murder ghosts.
Right. And she's like, just go. And I was like, girl, run for real. This is a noble sacrifice. And you just turn around to your death.
I was like, she was not doing a serpentine pattern. Who taught her?
You gotta really run, child. Like your sister is over there getting hacked up by her own boyfriend. Run.
But the sister was hardcore. She was like, I'm gonna have to fight them off. I'm gonna give it my all. And she went in.
She just accepted that shady side curse down to her toes.
Like I'm not getting out of this town.
Like, I'm never getting out of this town. So here's my final stand.
Yeah. So I thought she went out in a really dope way. It was gruesome. Yeah. It was brutal.
On top of that, though, I think we get yet another example of how in the Fear Street movies, in the Fear Street universe, women are like impervious to being stabbed. Because like, she was stabbed like 6 times.
The younger sister, yeah.
Yes, I was like, wait.
I don't know how mouth to mouth resuscitation from stab wounds, but you know.
I don't know how he takes the stab wounds by breathing air into her lungs, which is then just gonna pump more.
You know, I'm not a medical professional.
I'm not a doctor, but I'm pretty sure
27 stabs to the gut.
6 holes and a minimum of 6 holes in your chest and stomach. All the breathing in the world is not gonna save you. But she definitely woke up, looked around, was able to talk to people with 6 or 7 stab wounds.
I feel like if I like try to apply this logic to real life, I'm gonna have a lot of dead people's family members very upset with me that I tried to do mouth to mouth on their stab.
Family. She had 6 stab wounds. But I knew that mouth to mouth was what it was going to take to help her survive. And I was right.
Why didn't you plug the wounds until some? Because Fear Street said mouth to mouth.
Fear Street said mouth to mouth of stab wounds. Then the narrator voice kicks in. The narrator voice kicks in. Mouth to mouth does not solve stab wounds. Like, okay,
y'all didn't see that?
Y'all didn't see her come back from the dead? Because I gave her mouth to mouth? Hello?
No. Oh. All right. Yeah, that was wild. But the sister, man, she got her chest caved in. Like, they hacked her to bits.
They didn't have to do it like that. I was like,
and like they just showed them both. I thought that was like pretty dope for a horror movie. Like to show them
I was thinking the same thing.
Laying there getting hacked.
Just stabbed up and smashed up, bones crunching, blood gushing. Looking in each other's eyes as they die, like that was it. Like, ooh, brutal.
Yeah,
that's the best movie out of the three.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It had you glued in from start to finish, and like the tension ratcheted up from like the first, second, and third act. It was a really well paced movie. I would say my one critique of this is that I know like they set up the place, but I did not believe that I was watching a movie set in the 70s at all.
No, it seemed pretty modern.
Like all of the actors seemed like they were from the 2000s.
Like 2000s, 2020 people. Even the clothes, we dressing like that now. Like it seemed normal. All the extras,
they tried to throw in like shagadelic and played like the themed music, but I was just like, no, I'm watching modern people pretend to be in the 70s.
Like the one hippied out girl who's all like, everything's cool because it's peace and love. I was like, that sounds like a lot of Gen X kids. You know what?
Yeah.
I meant to say Gen Z.
Gen Z, yeah.
Those Gen Xers.
Yeah. Like I wouldn't have been surprised if someone pulled out a smartphone. Like it wouldn't have been jarring to me.
Would not have thrown me at all. If she suddenly whipped out her phone and started taking pictures. I'd have been like, that's normal for the 70s.
Yeah. So they just didn't fully pull me in to the decade that we were in. Correct. Although like the set was good. Like they had a really good camp set up. It all looked like they took time to set everything up and to have that tone, but like I was like, these are modern kids and I'm watching.
I happened to crawl through the poop hole though. Like what's up with that?
But on that I did like how the younger sister got that girl who was messing with her, threw all them roaches on her.
She was really losing it with all them roaches. She needed her ass whooped.
Like, she did
Yeah,
too much.
she was doing too much. When they
She
was
was
painting
doing
all
too
over,
much.
not you painting all over my stuff. Nah, we need
Also,
to
what happened to that girl? Because like she knocked her out, and then
did she
we
get
never
killed?
saw her again.
We never saw her again. She probably still in there. Bones in the corner, like
What is happening?
you guys couldn't see me, but I was posing like Bones laid up against the wall. That's why I got quiet.
Yeah, that girl just sitting in there like, no one wants to hear my story how I got left in this murder camp.
No one wants to hear about how I was attacked at the murder camp. No one.
No one cares. No.
They were like, no survivors. She's sitting over here like, what about me?
I had a roach on my face.
And why did they keep saying there were no survivors? And then they were like, there was one survivor. But I was like, no, there were two survivors because Nick Good survived too. Did y'all forget about him?
I think they forgot about a lot of people. I don't think they did a head count.
Every time they talked about it, they were like, no survivors. Then they went through the paper. Oh, there was a survivor. She was given mouth to mouth by a friend. So then two survivors.
Again, there was no adult supervision at this camp. And it made me just think back to the beginning when the nurse tried to kill Tommy.
Yes.
How did they not shut down the whole camp after that?
It should have been done. Like, parents should have been called. Your son was almost stabbed today.
Literally.
Like, well, was he actually stabbed? Because in the Fear Street universe, getting stabbed is not that big a deal.
But like, it was like business as usual after this.
Not a single adult was
stabbing, and this lady goes out on a stretcher.
She goes out on a stretcher, Looney Tunes style, and everyone's just like, all right, back to the classist color war. Like, that's what we're gonna go do after all. It's poors versus richies. Let's go.
They're like, don't think about it. Move on.
Don't even worry about it. She's fine. Everything's okay. Camp
we gotta get back to the rest of the movie. Move on. Stop thinking too hard.
You're thinking too hard. Keep going.
Yeah, they didn't make no sense.
We're gonna keep going and roll out just like that nurse was rolled out into the madness of 1666.
Yeah. So like we said, 1976 was a really good movie. Like, outside of like me not feeling like they were in the 70s, I don't have any other. I think the acting was great. Mm-hmm. All the actors did really good. I thought it was good. And then it leads back to 94, where they come back to Dina, and she goes to back to the site, and then she gets touched, her blood touches the whatever it is that, well, we find out what that red stuff is later, but her blood touches it and it sends her consciousness into 1666, and that's where that story picks up.
Can we, just a quick sidebar, can we talk about the fact that somehow the witch's magic makes people's nose bleed, the very thing she needs in order to like hunt them forever? Somehow their noses just suddenly bleed and they just happen to drip on her bones, drip on her chain, I mean, it's like,
from the beginning they just ended up being exactly where they needed to be at all times.
Instant nose bloods to bleed all over bones in order to, it's a lot of blood magic being used. It's a whole lot of blood magic, blood bonding.
I'm like, you telling me no one like accidentally tripped over there and got a skinned knee and their blood hit it? And, like,
ever
accidents can happen.
Is she just like picking and choosing who she's possessing? Like, you're it, you're the one getting hunted down. And my thing is, she keeps going after shady side people, this witch, and I'm like, why you keep killing the shady side people? Because
the book in the series tells us that she needs to.
And I'm like, shouldn't you be killing the people from Sunnyvale? Why they not getting killed? And that ties into what.
Yeah, I was about to say, I guess they kind of try to explain that away, but ties into part 3, which was our least favorite, 1666, where it takes place from like Dina's viewpoint of being in the consciousness of fear.
God. Right off the bat, I was like, pass.
Yeah.
Next.
I just feel like this one was like,
Cobbled together all
yeah,
last
it was, I just felt so disconnected from
just was
everything. I
like
know it was
no
telling the story of how like Fear met her demise, but it didn't tie into 94
at all.
at
And that's
all.
because they varied from the story too much. This was when they started taking their artistic license and filling out a plot that already existed, and it looks good in books, but I guess it doesn't look good on TV.
But like, and then like they brought the sisters from 1976, but like they had no purpose in 1666
at all, except to just be characters there.
Yeah,
That's
one
that's
sister was one of the kids that got killed. The other one was kind of irrelevant.
right. So that's why I was like, are they just like they must be the descendants of these people? But then I'm just like,
But they didn't explain that.
and you didn't tell anybody that you just wanted to use the same actors without explaining why you were using the same actors. We call that
Yeah.
lazy. That's just
Yeah.
lazy.
But then, like, you know, in 1666, we find out it wasn't Fear the witch doing all of this. It was a good who had
Solomon Good.
sold to the devil, and brings all these like human souls so that he can remain, or his lineage can remain thriving.
Right? Like he went and sold his soul to the devil and became a super witch because he was tired of being poor.
But it's like you still were living kind of poor. It's like your soul didn't even like amount to much. You're like living basically in this basic town.
You brought all this evil and rot onto the town, but what happened? How did he thrive? How did he prosper? Suddenly flash forward to the future and all the goods are rich. And you're like, we didn't even see you rich in the past. What happened?
Yeah. And so like he apparently sneaks up on the witch and steals the book and slits her throat. Like, how did she not anticipate someone would like, and how did he know that she had that book? Like, what?
And
How?
they were calling her the widow. They weren't
The witch?
calling her
Yeah.
the witch. She wasn't
Yeah.
even teaching them witchcraft. She was actually screaming at them if they got anywhere near her witchy stuff. I'm so confused as to who was the witch and who wasn't.
But like, how did he know she had this book? How did he know how to use the book? And why did he think like I have to kill this lady to get the book? None of that made sense to me.
You just took it. Like she can't get it back from you. If
Like, she wouldn't have known who had taken the book.
She wouldn't have known it was you. There was no need to kill her. She don't even be in her tent that often. Everybody was walking up in there.
And how did you know how to use the book? Like, does it speak to you or something?
Right? And I was just like, Sarah Fear reads the names. You know, she starts reading off the demon names and then ends with Satan. Nothing happens. He reads the names and somehow has
He gets to
power
collect souls. Yeah.
like activate blood sigils. And I was like, what? Like, y'all not even following your own magic rules. Not even following your own universe's rules.
Yeah. So like, I feel like the whole explaining everything was so all over the place and ambiguous. They didn't explain enough. And then when it came to like, she realized it was him, and like they show how she lost her hand. I thought that was so weird.
Like, why?
She stabbed her in the hand and it just like popped.
Stabbed her in the hand and she pulled her hand away so hard that it
just
ripped off at the wrist. It just ripped off at the wrist and just flopped over there onto the
Again, we are not medical professionals.
But I'm pretty sure that's not how tendons work. Like, that's not how tendons work.
Yeah, like,
the hand just flopped to a random part of the ground, not even on like the sigil on the ground, not even to drip the blood on the magic.
Did he slice clean through the bone on the first go?
He did. She had like a little piece of flesh that was hanging, and she basically yanked her arm away and was running around missing a hand. No blood loss, no, not fainting from blood loss.
Yeah, there was not enough blood or in 66.
And then yet again, we see that in the Fear Street universe, you can get stabbed and still fight people, cut people's hands off, chase them through underground tunnels, run up just in time to snatch him by the back of the head and scream, "I found the witch!" But why are you stabbed?
Yeah, no one questioned that after they had bum rushed his house and didn't find anything. And then the next time they see him, he's like stabbed up and then she's handless.
And covered in filth. And it's just like, clearly he's been torturing her. And everybody was just like, got her. And immediately hung her right where she was, missing a hand, everything. Like, what?
Also, they both survived to the next morning with mortal wounds in 1666.
In dirt and filth, no infection. Solomon didn't get gangrene.
They didn't bleed out.
He didn't bleed to death. She stabbed him right in the stomach. I'm so confused. How y'all keep getting these gut wounds and getting up and fighting?
Yeah.
Make it make sense.
Yeah, so none of that made sense. There was not enough gore, unexplained injuries, and then they hang Sarah Fear and she curses the good, which is like, I feel like this curse was so not specific enough.
So vague.
Why wouldn't you just say, like, I curse there'll be no more goods, like you won't be able to make any more goods?
You were about to go sell your soul to the devil. That's the thing. Like, she was acting like she was you were about to go do the same thing. I didn't understand why she ran from Solomon the way she did. She was like, it was you that cursed this town.
Well, yeah, because his curse led to her brother getting killed.
And that's what, but the thing is, she was about to go and do the exact same thing. She was about to go sell her soul to cause a curse on the town the same way he had. So why not just pretend like you on his team and then stab him in the throat when he's not looking?
Well, he would have been fine with a throat stab based on the science.
He would have been able to survive for another 20 years with his throat bleed.
But yeah, I don't understand like why her curse wasn't like any goods won't survive, like there will be no more lineage of the goods. That would be my curse. What is this like extended, you'll be found out eventually?
And she didn't curse him like that in the books either. And I never understood that in the books either. Like, I was really looking forward to seeing Sarah Fear. Like, they didn't even, the stuff they showed in the trailer, she didn't even do in the movie. The thing with the flies where she's like, you want a witch? I'll give you a witch. Like, she didn't even do that.
Yeah, she really didn't do like witchy stuff except for like popping up like an apparition every now and then. She didn't really do anything else.
Like, in the books, she knowingly does that magic as a result of people coming, like as a result of men doing what men do best, which is ruin everything. As a result of the men coming at her and accusing her father of witchcraft. Y'all don't know that, but in the books, it was her dad who was the witch, not her. She got her. Anyways, whole thing. He teaches her magic. That's why I was like, cool, we're going to see Sarah really doing what she's supposed to be doing. Nope. In the books, they go to hang her. She turns into a mouse and jumps down the preacher's throat, and chokes him to death.
The preacher didn't die in the book.
None of that was in the books. The eyeballs being ripped out of kids and stuff. I was like, what is this? I'm gonna let it slide for a movie universe, because it was still good. I was like, as far as like creepy killers go, preacher gouging out the eyes of children and his own eyes, yeah, that's pretty good. Like, I was like, okay, this is cool. But like, Sarah Fear in the book was like a powerful witch that traveled through the ages. She didn't just send out some goofball ass curse that was like, one day the truth will come out. Okay,
yeah. Like, that's not gonna stop me from living my life. Just the fear that one day something's like, gonna come.
I've got the power of the devil. Let the truth come out. I'll just change it. And that's what he did for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
I was really thrown. I was very thrown.
So I wasn't feeling that. And then 1666 switches back to 94. So the second part of this is back to 1994, where they know that it's Solomon Good's lineage.
Right. Can we just laugh at the fact that 1666 only got 1 hour out of its own movie, and then they finished the whole rest of the movie in a different time period?
I feel like for what they gave us, I wouldn't have wanted to sit through more than an hour. I didn't need more. It was fun.
Right. So flash forward to back to 1994. They've gotten some answers. They've gotten some details. They got a bit of a plan worked up. Here we go.
But again, like, yeah, you cut that in half, but the other half I also didn't like.
Also was not good.
I'm not sure if I liked it less than the first half or not. I've been going back and forth, but I know I didn't like it. I felt like it was just the first 1994 again. The same thing, setting up these ghosts with traps.
Yep.
The only difference is like now they're trying to trap good as well. But
it went
like,
back to Scooby-Doo hijinks. It went back to it was Mr. Roper under the mask all along. It went back to that vibe. They go back to this woman's house whose entire life they have invaded. Also, something that we didn't make a note of.
yeah,
she got some clocks on the wall. What were the clocks about?
I don't know why her house was set up the way it was.
She had clocks, timers, and alarms for everything. But for what? They don't want her anymore. She survived.
Yeah. And they're ghost figures. So what is a locked door or whatever is supposed to do for these ghost figures?
They couldn't walk through walls and doors.
Oh, okay.
They couldn't walk through them. If you saw through the whole movie, they reached to open doors. They were locked inside of closets and things like that. Remember in 1994, they get locked inside the stores with just those regular chain fences.
I just feel like this was just another 1994 trap the ghost. Yep. Also get good. But like, I also feel like after all of that build up of that this was the sister and we got to get her, she really didn't serve a purpose outside of calling good to come to the mall. What other purpose she didn't do anything else?
They offered her the opportunity to get her vengeance by killing Nick Good, who was the one that had kept her going, and she pussed out.
Yeah.
She couldn't do it. I was like, what? Your sister got her chest caved in front of you, but you can't get the man who did it? Oh, okay.
And she didn't even help kill like the other ghost things. Like she was standing while the brother was doing all the work. I was like, what was her? Y'all built her up to be so integral to this finale, and she really wasn't.
Just like the clocks. She was just as confusing as all the clocks. I was like, you didn't even need her to find out the details about what happened that night. She told you the same thing you read in the newspaper. Her heart stopped. The end.
And I feel like Dina could have called good and been like, I know who you are, come to the mall, and he would have came.
There was no need to there was no need for any of that. She could have just been like, I'm ready for this to end, come to this spot, and then just shot him in the face. Y'all have a gun. You stole it off the cop. Why you didn't just shoot him in the face? And then this was the thing that made me the most upset about the movie. Like the movie was already just like, okay, whatever. Mm-hmm. She kills him. Dina kills Nick in the underground little cave over the witchy symbol.
Yeah.
Dips out through his home into the rich neighborhood of Sunnyvale. His ridiculous mansion-like house. Walks out to the streets of Sunnyvale. And then they do explanation for what happened next. They don't show us. And they say, turns out Nick Good, the dirty sheriff, was leading a conspiracy of killing teens. And you're like,
yeah. Also, back to that, like, one, did they ever show us that he was that rich? I just thought he was just like the random cop.
They didn't show us anything about him except for the fact that he fell for the weird girl in Camp Nightwing in the 1970s.
And he was the one that always showed up to the scene. That was it.
And you knew he was a good, but you didn't know that good meant bad. You didn't even have a clue as to that the fact that it probably meant he was the bad guy. Yeah. Which I guess they wanted us to get a reveal that he was the bad one. They wanted to make the 1666 reveal like a double whammy reveal. Like, whoa, not only is he the bad guy, he's the big bad guy. Like, he's not just the descendant of the bad guy. He actually did the evil himself because he's the one that offered up Tommy Slater's name. But then I was like, and here's another thing. it's timed. They let so many years pass in between each killing, right?
It seems.
Nick Good has been alive long enough to put two people's names on the wall. Because he put Tommy Slater's name and he put that Torres kid's name on the wall. And I didn't see nobody else putting two people's names on the wall. They're just breaking all their own rules.
Yeah, none of it is explained. The getting the sister back into the scene was irrelevant. Ugh. Then they killed him, and then they did the dumbest thing where you had to wait till the after credits to see is that after all that, Dina left the book at the crime scene
and somebody came and snatched it.
Why?
I couldn't believe that either. And
after all of that,
at least burn it. Like, why would you not at minimum burn that book up?
Yeah. Why would you leave?
Don't want to use it. Why would you leave it there?
That was the point of all.
That was the whole thing that started it. Why would you leave it there and not burn it? And that's how the Fear Street keeps going. And that's how R.L. Stine keeps the universe going and keeps the stories going. There's so much more folklore that you don't get to see in these three movies that made Fear Street so great. These movies were almost like installments. I guess there's what I expected from the movies was for them to build a universe. And these were like installments in a universe that might already be established. And the universe is not established yet. So I don't know if they plan on doing more or not. But this was like, I mean, I guess they could, but
yeah. Man. I think that if they are going to expand into a whole universe, they should do like the books, like not only focus on good and fear. Like, you know, there's so many other Fear Street sagas and Fear Street stories that aren't related to that have nothing to do with like demons and things like that. There's just like other good pocket stories. So I would like them to do it like that. Like each season is a new Fear Street anthology of like another type of story and doesn't have to all be connected to good and fear.
Right.
I think that would be a good way to keep it fresh.
A little bit more like a kind of like a watered down American Horror Story. The way American Horror Story is an anthology that keeps kind of telling stories in the same universe. Fear Street is the same way. Several stories that exist in the same universe. They, like you said, they don't always have, like Dee said, it's not always about like magic. Sometimes it's just about shadiness.
Yeah.
Thieves.
Yeah.
You know, cold-blooded bitches.
Yeah, there's like all kinds of
very enjoyable
stories they can pull from. Oh, I would say like for the trilogy, if it's just its own one-off thing, I think it was fine for what it was with 1976 being the best. But if they expand it, I would still be curious enough to see what they would do next, if they could keep it interesting and exciting and move on to other stories or not. What are your thoughts, Mighty Moses?
I give it a C-. I'll give it a C-.
Yeah.
I give it a C-. It's worth watching. Like, you know, like I said, for the nostalgia, it's worth watching. Like, it's Fear Street. It's what we grew up with those stories. So it's good to see them playing out. It's good to see them being introduced to people who hadn't accessed them before, to this new generation of young tweens who would have never heard of them. I give the whole trilogy a C-, which to me says like there's room for growth. So if they wanted to continue, I might check it out.
Yeah, I agree. I say if you don't care about like logic and like plot continuity, if you don't care about any of that, you probably think it's like a solid C, maybe a C+, even for the kills, for the gore and the kills.
I changed that. I'll take it.
But if you do care about that, like we do, I think the C- would be fair across like an average of all of them, with 1976 being, you know, the highest.
1976 was very enjoyable. Good.
Yeah,
they did a good job with that one.
Yeah, that one's really good. I don't know if they had different directors and writers for each one, or if it was all the same.
That was definitely bending the curve, the grading curve. That one is definitely where the curve is.
Yeah. So that was our take on the Fear Street trilogy. Like we said, check it out. I mean, I hope you had, before you got to our spoiler review, I hope you had already checked it out. Even if you hadn't and you just want to see some interesting kills and things like that, give it a check. At least check out 1976, because that one was pretty solid even on its own.
Oh yeah, we definitely left out a lot of detail. Like we covered a lot of stuff, but we definitely left out a lot of detail that would still make the movies worth watching.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so we'll wrap up our weekly detox. A little different this week, but I know we had seen it all and we wanted to talk about it, give our thoughts. So now they are out and they will be out in the world for other people. Let us know if you've already seen it. Comment below. Let us know what you thought. What was your favorite? What part you liked? What part you didn't like? Do you feel like the kills had no stakes because people could get stabbed and live on?
Oh my
Or did
gosh,
you just
it's
accept
funny.
that and went along for the ride? Let us know below. But as we leave you on that note, we're going to get out of here. Again, until next week, we'll come back with more things to detox. And until then, you all take care and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.